Hi everybody, Carissa here with Inky Fairy Designs for Marker Pop today, and I'm going to show you how I colored this cute little gnome on Kraft cardstock, as well as how I kind of put together my card today. I'm using this stamp set. It's called You Know Me by My Favorite Things. I'll also be using some other stamp sets by Paper Smooches and Avery, Elle to kind of create this custom sentiment that I'll be using. And for the happy, I'm making a happy birthday card. I'm using this die, which is by My Favorite Things. I think this die is so cute. It actually cuts out the word, but it leaves like little windows, so it creates kind of like a little window to the inside of your card, and I thought that was just really fun. So I'm creating a really simple birthday card like I mentioned. This is actually for my dad. He loves gnomes, and so I just thought this set was, I had to have it to make him his birthday card and possibly Father's Day. So anyway, as usual, I will be coloring with Copic markers today, and I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black to stamp my image. This is my go-to ink when I'm using Copic markers. I have no bleeding, I don't have to heat set it, I can just stamp and go, which is very important to me. So I'm creating a custom sentiment. I really loved the sentiment that said for a friend like gnome one else. I love the little pun there, but I wanted it to be for my dad. So I am using some of these stamps. It's an alpha stamp by Paper Smooches to spell out dad, and then also to spell out my dad. And then I'm using this Avery Elle birthday stamp, which I found had a very similar font to the My Favorite Thing stamp. And it just gave some continuity to the sentiment that I was going to stamp, and kind of placed it where I wanted, and now I'm ready to start coloring this little guy. So I wanted to show you, I picked up the hex chart by Sandy Alnuck, and I'm going to be using it throughout the video, showing you kind of how I'm choosing my colors and how I may have chosen my colors beforehand. The hex chart is actually arranged visually by color instead of the Copic chart, which is arranged by the numbering system for Copic. So it makes a little bit of a difference. You'll see some of the colors are in out of order than you would have seen them in the Copic chart, but I refer to both of them. The hex chart hasn't totally replaced my Copic chart, and I think I use them, you know, together, at least for now, as I'm learning how the hex chart is going to completely blow my coloring world away. So anyway, also to keep in mind when you're coloring on Kraft, you'll want to use more vibrant colors. Just by the very nature of coloring on a darker surface, it's going to soak up a lot of the color and the pigment, and so in order to make it brighter, you'll actually want to use more vibrant colors than normal. So I'm using E21 and E33 for the skin, which is probably a darker combination. And you can see here I pulled out R21 to do his cheeks, but that was way too light. So I went and chose R32, and that gave me a lot more of the peachy color I wanted for his cheek and his nose. So now I'm going to go ahead and start coloring the clothes, and here's the hex chart. So I'm looking at it, and I'm showing you here. I would have normally gravitated to R14, R17, and possibly R12 for my lighter color. But when I'm looking at it together, I'm seeing, okay, well maybe I want to start with R14, jump to R17, and then see how the R29 is just a shade darker. It'll give me a nice contrast, and so I decided to do that rather than the R12, R14, and R17. So here I am laying down my color, and this chart just really helped me to kind of think more outside the box, looking at the colors as they relate to each other on the hex chart. And I think that I could really see a difference. Although this was the first time I kind of really referred to it, and I'm coloring on Kraft, which I don't normally color on, so it was just, I don't think it was a true representation of how it might change. So I want to look at some of my go-to color combinations and then look at the hex chart and see, would I want to use a different color instead? So I think that will be really fun, and I'll probably have some more videos on that coming up later. So I also add E09. I tend to do E09 when I'm coloring red. It's just a really rich brown and it really adds some contrast. So here's what I would normally do: R26, R28, and R29. Or I did that before in the first one. B26, B28, and B29. But when I looked at the hex chart, I saw that B28 and B29 were so similar, I wasn't going to get enough of a contrast. So I'm taking a look and I'm thinking, what color do I want to replace? And I finally decided that I was going to bring in B24 as my lightest, and then go to B26, and then go to B29. You can see it's kind of on like a little diagonal, and you can really see the colors and how they're going to work together, and how they, you know, it just opened my eyes to, oh, well, maybe I'll jump a couple numbers down where maybe I wouldn't have otherwise, and I might have been like, why am I not getting so much of a contrast, especially coloring on Kraft? So it was really fun experimenting with this new color chart. I highly recommend it. I encourage you to check out Sandy Allnuck's YouTube channel. I'll have a link in the description below. She's amazing. You've probably, if you're not following her already, you're definitely going to want to. She is a coloring queen, not just with Copics, but with watercolors and all kinds of stuff. So back to my card. I'm just finishing up coloring his jeans here. And like I said, you can really see how that jumping down to the B24 really helped to give me that contrast that I really want in my coloring. So I'm just using the R14 and the R29 on his suspenders in a small area. I just go from the super light to the super dark, and it gives you a really nice contrast. So here again, I'm taking a look at the Copic chart, and what I would normally gravitate to, the Y17, I believe 15, and Y18, and I was like, I want more of a contrast. So I'm looking around, and I thought I would do the R31 as my lightest, and then jump to YR31. I'm looking right at it. I don't know why I'm not saying the right numbers. But anyway, then going to Y17 and Y38. It's a good thing they're on the screen there for you, because I obviously can't read today. And this is the second time I'm doing this voiceover. So, and you can also see that I switched to coloring from dark to light on the shirt. I was noticing that I was getting some bleeding, and that's just because this paper, it just soaks in the marker a lot more, so I can't put a whole lot of layers down that I would normally work on the Copic Express It blending card. So I thought I would just do very simple coloring, very simple blending, lay down my darkest, bring in my medium, and then blend it out with my lightest. And that gave me the shading and the blending that I really wanted. And I added a little bit more of the dark and then a little bit more of the light, and it helped not to have so many layers going on the craft. So when you're coloring on different surfaces, you'll want to take that into consideration and kind of see how your markers are reacting to that surface, and then adjust your coloring as needed. So not every surface is going to take the color on the paper that you might normally color with. So just think about that. For his beard, I'm using some warm grays. I'm using W3 and W5, and I'm using some stippling motion here to create texture. The stippling is just adding small or different sized dots on your image, and it gives you a lot of texture. I added some W0 just to kind of blend it all out together. And then I'm coming back in with a W5 to deepen up those shadows. And I love using this on animals and beards and anywhere I want to have some fun texture. And I was really shocked when I got done coloring and the ink kind of dried. It actually made the beard look white compared to the rest of the Kraft cardstock. So that was pretty cool. So I'm just adding some grass to ground him on top of that sentiment, and also a shadow around him just to kind of pop him off of the page a little bit and give him some color behind him. So all of the colors will be listed below in the YouTube description because I was not saying them correctly, and they'll also be listed on my blog. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and give coloring on Kraft a try. I would love to see your creations. And thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to become a subscriber, I would love that. And if you give me a thumbs up, that would be great too. All of the products I used on my card today will be listed below in the YouTube description and on my blog, along with the Copic color combinations. Thanks again for watching.